guy that can't jump, he better have good fundamentals. So I learned what it meant to box out and all that good stuff. So went to Warren Central and Dragon for life, and graduated a couple hundred years ago. And I'm proud of this, though. I've been gone 37 years, and I still hold 2 records. So I'm pretty proud of that.
What were those?
Most rebounds in a season. You can ask me how many.
How many?
432. And so if you got that many, you got the average per game was like 16.6. So
that is pretty good.
That's pretty good for a guy like me that can't jump. So anyway, so I used to, back in the day, I was telling you earlier, I used to laugh at, we were made to run. You know, if you play basketball, I'm sure there's a lot of girls and guys here that play ball, but you were made to do sprints and all that stuff. So you know, I used to, we got to do this again, you know, the suicides and all that stuff. So, you know, I used to be going to practice, and I would see people out running, and I said, you know, what kind of sport is that? I mean, they don't have a ball in their hand, they're not hitting a ball, they're not, you know, you know. And so now, the last 10 years, I've gotten fairly serious, you know, with running. I've got a total mind change on that. It takes a lot to be a decent runner.
And that was one of the questions I had there for you was, you know, you ran a marathon. Explain what a marathon is.
Well, a marathon, I meant to look this up exactly, but I don't know, guys and girls, I don't know if y'all remember, marathon got its name, Wendy, you may be able to help me with this, but years ago there was some kind of battle, and they had a messenger go tell somebody, and Marathon was the name of the town that he left from, and I think he went to Athens, is that right? And the distance was 26.2 miles. So
I didn't know that.
Look that up or Google it sometime, but so that's the distance of a marathon, is 26.2 miles.
26.2 miles. And y'all picture that in your mind, 26.2 miles. That is more than running from downtown Scottsville to Bowling Green.
Right.
Y'all been from Scottsville to Bowling Green? Are more than running from Scottsville to Glasgow or Franklin. From Scottsville, and you who are from Scottsville, can you imagine running that? I can't imagine walking, let alone running.
Well, I'm just a recreational runner. There's elite runners out there that are just incredible. I mean, if you look at some of these runners that you know, it's Olympic sport now, and I think that's kind of like y'all's theme this week, something like that. And you know, yeah, these people they run 205, 210. That means 2 hours and 5 minutes, 2 hours and 10 minutes. Matter of fact, 2 years ago at the Boston Marathon, a guy set a world record. It was wind aided. In other words, there was a little wind at his back. But when you're going 26.2 miles, who cares, right? I mean,
yeah.
So anyway,
if I run to the refrigerator,
right.
There's a lot of resistance, by the way.
But he did a 2:03:02, which means he did 2 hours, 3 minutes, and 2 seconds. To me, is unfathomable. I mean, that's less than 5-minute miles. I mean, that's just incredible.
What do you do to prepare for a marathon?
Well, you do a lot of things. Train. I asked a guy one time that I met 2 years ago who is my running hero. Now, my hero is Jesus, but my running hero is a guy, now look him up sometime, check him out on YouTube or Google him or something, Dean Karnazes, Karnazes. All right, here's a guy, you talk about what I do to train for a marathon. Here's a guy that 4 years ago, I don't know if y'all heard this story or not, but he was about 47 years old. You know what he did for 50 days? He ran 50 straight marathons in 50 different states. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? At 47 years old. So I asked him this question that you just asked me. 2 years ago, I met him in New York City when I ran the New York City Marathon. I said, how do you do this? And he goes, 3 things. And this will apply to your life or your churches. He said, commitment. He said, discipline. And he said, no shortcuts.
True, I heard that.
Amen.
So here's a guy that got tired of marathons. Now he runs these ultra marathons, which he'll go out and run 100 miles. 2 years ago, he wanted to run a marathon. He lives in California. He wanted to run a marathon. He said, wait a minute, that's 100 miles from here. So you know what he did? He didn't jump in his car or a plane. He runs 100 miles, gets there 15 minutes before it starts, and he runs the marathon, and he runs 3 hours and 15 minutes, which is unheard of after running 100 miles and then doing a marathon on top of that.
That's crazy.
Back to your question.
That's just plain crazy.
This guy is unbelievable. Look him up sometime. He's got a book out called Ultra Marathon Man and another one. But it's a lot about life. You know, we're in a race here. You know, it's a great race that God has put us in. But you really have to train, and this is our training ground. And you have to have a goal in mind.
Amen.
You see, when I'm training, that finish line is in the back of my mind. In other words, when I'm going through this journey of life, and I know what my ultimate goal is, and that's heaven. Okay, so when I'm training for a marathon, I put down the exact day. So my decisions, all my decisions are based on that final end.
So you don't just wake up
No,
on Saturday and say, you know what, next Saturday I think I'm going to run a marathon.
no, it's all, and it takes usually 18 to 20 weeks is what a marathon training program is, and but you know, it's not just about logging miles. You gotta do specific training. You gotta do speed work, which this morning I went to the gym. See, I drive a FedEx truck. And so I'm too tired at the end of the day, so I'm up at 4:30, 4:45, and I'm at the gym, or I'm on the pavement. And
4:30?
yeah,
I don't think
not PM, that's AM.
I don't think my clock has that on it. I don't think I've ever seen that.
So anyway, to get up at that time, you know what that means? I'm not watching the late night shows. I'm not usually watching the news. So it means,
Go ahead, I'm going to do this.
that means plenty of rest, eating right. That means saying no sometimes when I need to say no, but always have the end in sight. And that means when Dean said no shortcuts, if my training calls for 10 miles and I say I want to break it off at 5, then I know that I'm hurting myself in the end. And it's hard to make up when you cut yourself short like that. So it's just a lot of training and just a lot of preparation. You know, they always say, and this is what you can take in your life and in your Christian walk, and maybe some of you already made that commitment, maybe some of you are thinking about it, but you know, if we train well, we prepare well, then we'll race well.
Amen. That is life.
Right. So
What we're doing here this week has been kind of like you're talking about. You know, doing things like this with the youth group, going out to, some of them go to things all summer long. It's kind of what you're talking about. You're preparing yourself for life, the life race that you're running. So, yeah, that's
right.
a good application. Good
and
application.
I think if we always, guys, I think we'll always look at the end first, and not
Ours is heavy.
right. And then if you're training for a sport or something like that, okay, what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to accomplish? You know, I would tell people, hey, I just want to get to heaven. Man, I want to bust through them gates. I mean, I want to go there. I just don't want to be dragged across and have Mr. Brewer back there drag me across. I want to be busting through them gates, you know. And I want to say, hey, you can't go that fast. Yeah, I want to come on in like that.
That's kind of the idea Paul was talking about in Philippians chapter 3 there, where he says, I press towards the mark. That's not just leisurely going down to where he's going, the goal that he had. I'm pressing towards. I'm putting everything I've got into getting to this. I press towards the mark of the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus, he says. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Right, exactly. And, those are two of my favorite verses, Philippians 3:12 through 14, and then Hebrews 12:1 and 2. And have a lot of references in there about running
Amen.
and finishing the race. And, it's not, for the Christian, man, when we come up out of that water, I mean, we're just starting. I mean, it's not a finished product right there. And I saw a great sign about 5 miles back here at a church coming on this main road out here. And what did it say? Something. God expects steady growth.
To run a marathon, that's exactly what.
Right. And think about it in life. We need to be growing. And, you know, we're all physically growing, but we need to be maturing. And, you know, if I say, oh, I want to take, you know, 2 weeks off of training, ooh-wee, I'm going to pay for that, and it's not going to be pretty. And so, I mean, we all need to, you know, strive for that growth, you know, whatever we're doing.
Well, how many marathons have you run?
I've done 4, and I want to talk to you briefly. My first one was in 2008 in Chicago. My second one was in Louisville, and my third one was New York City, and Boston was my 4th, April 15th. And I want to tell you just a little bit about Boston, if I could.
Yeah, let me bring up a couple of things to the kids before we get into that part. You know, on April the 15th, I know most of y'all heard the news. You know, the Boston Marathon. Of course, before you talk about the marathon itself, how do you get into the Boston Marathon? I mean, that is the cream of the crop of marathons, isn't it?
Yeah.
Explain about
I have to be honest with you, I never thought I would qualify. See, Boston, you have to qualify. You just can't pay your money and sign up for it.
So I couldn't go running the Boston Marathon.
No, unless you go to a qualifying race, which I chose Louisville to try to qualify for. So you have a deadline always in the middle of September for the next year. The Boston Marathon's always run the 3rd Monday in April. And so you run and you take your age group. So you take, if you're 30 to 34, you look at that and it may say, okay, I've got to run a 3-hour, 10-minute marathon, or just throwing that out there. So it is a qualifying race. So then if you meet that qualifying time, then you can, you know, apply to run the Boston Marathon. It's the only marathon in the world like that. The others you just sign up for.
To get in the Boston Marathon, guys, it is a big deal. If you're a marathon runner, that's
Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl of marathons. And this year, of course, we know on April the 15th at 2:49 p.m., I looked it up today, 2 pressure cooker bombs went off about 13 seconds apart. They were 210 yards apart. 2 people died. 3 people died. And a lot of people were injured. Over 100 people were injured. 7 people lost limbs that day. 17 people lost limbs that day. And you ran in that race. I'm going to pass around something too that, by the way, when you run a marathon, it's a big deal. Show them this.
I just want you to pass this around and check it out. It's something I never thought I'd accomplish, but
it's pretty cool, and I got to hold it. That's the medal they got for running in the marathon. Again, and running a marathon is a big accomplishment in and of itself.
I never thought I'd qualify for it, but I just happened to have a good day running, and everything went well, and my training was good. So you know, it just got to all come together. Some days you go out to the starting line. Is anybody runners in here? Anybody run for school or recreational?
Yeah.
All right. So you know what I'm talking about there. Sometimes you can go out, oh, I don't feel too good. Well, that happens a lot, and so that happened, you know, with me on the qualifying race. Everything just went well.
I said over 100, it's 264 people that were injured. Well, tell us, just
all right.
Describe your day as a starter.
Okay, it was a beautiful day in Boston. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Boston, but it's a wonderful sports town. I mean, it's incredible. They've got all the major sports teams. Right now they've got one playing in the National Hockey League Finals, the Bruins, but you've got the Celtics and the Red Sox and the Patriots and on and on and on. So it's a wonderful sports town. So anyway, a short story, a little side note, I went up to run it last year because I qualified last year to do it, and it was 80 degrees at the start. Now for a marathon, that is tremendously hot. So the race officials started the night before. They said, hey, if you got any health conditions or you just want to defer to next year, we'll let you do that. So I took that deferment because I did not want to run. At the finish, it was 88, and the pavement was over 100. I mean, that's just crazy for a marathon. So anyway, we woke up. My wife and I went. Alex went with us last year, but he stayed back this year. And so we went up. Beautiful morning. We got up leisurely. I got to the start line. Such a beautiful day. Beautiful temperatures, like high 30s, low 40s. That's perfect for running. And so we took off and had a great race and had a good time for me, 3:44. I was hoping to requalify. I had to run a 3:40 to requalify, but I was 4 minutes short. But anyway, I cry every night when I go to sleep. But anyway, that's anyway. So I finished at 2:15, and when you finish, you go through all these different chutes. They're giving you your medal, and they hang it around your neck, and you're thanking all the volunteers, and they're saying good job. They're giving you food and water and Gatorade and so forth, and then you go to the bag area to pick up if you left anything at the start line. So it's a little chilly that morning, so I left a few things. So anyway, I was heading back to meet my wife, who had gone down to mile 25 to watch me run past. And so I telephoned, called her, and all of a sudden, before she got there, we heard a huge noise. And I was standing with some volunteers and also some other runners, and we heard everything from, I hope that was supposed to happen, to, was that a gas main explosion, or was that some kind of celebration for, so anyway, and then another happened 13 seconds apart. So Wendy came up, and her cousins was with her, and so we started walking back to our hotel, and all of a sudden, Boston turns into a huge panic type situation where people started running, people on their cell phones, people started crying, and we thought, wait a minute, something's going on here. We still didn't know. We asked a couple of officials, and they wouldn't tell us anything, and so we walked back through this Prudential Center, which is a huge complex that has a lot of shops and restaurants, and then on to our hotel, and then we started hearing the news about, what had happened. And so, there was 35 minutes, but I finished at 2:15 and the bombs went off at 2:50. So, there was kind of 35 minutes of saying, man, this is cool, I finished, and,
yeah, oh man, that euphoria.
Yeah.
Running the Boston Marathon. Right. First time too with it. Right. So, man, I've achieved the ultimate, running the Boston Marathon.
And then at 2:50, 35 minutes later, a lot of things changed, And, you start thinking, okay, if I'd been 35 minutes slower, although there was only ear damage and one guy got shrapnel in his foot that was running, all the injuries and deaths came from spectators.
Your wife had been in that spot watching.
Right. And so, everything starts going through your head, Make sure you tell people you love them all the time. Treat each day as it's your last. What am I here for? What am I doing in life? Am I just going through the motions, as the Matthew West song says? That's his name, isn't it? Matthew West. I love it. Yeah. Am I just going through the motions, or do I have some kind of purpose? So anyway, we get back to the hotel, and phone starts ringing. We start calling people. And then, the next few days are history.
Kind of changes your perspective a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And, what I want to share with y'all more than me running the Boston Marathon is that, life is a race, and it's really, to me, it's a big test. Are we going to pass this test? Are we going to finish the race? And, we got to get out of the stands, and we got to participate, and we got to finish.
Say that again.
We got to get out of the stands. We got to participate.
So, I haven't been so hard on y'all after all, have I?
But we just can't start. We got to finish.
Absolutely.
And I love the commands of loving God and loving others. Of course, we want to reach that final goal. And can you imagine getting to heaven and somebody that's gone before us or something or whatever, however it's going to work out, is somebody place a medal over your head, around your neck, and say,
Give you that, yeah.
well done, thy good and faithful servant. I mean, wow, that gives me chill bumps.
I've get chills just thinking about it.
Anyway, what I'm saying, guys, is don't wait till you're my age. You know, you're at the age now that you can make so much impression on people around you. You can make so much impression on just the world in general. And you know, our hope is there. You know, our hope is not so much in this world at all, because, you know, we should be a little bit different in this world, of course.
And I'm wondering, you know, what if you had been back closer? What if that had been your wife on the sidelines? What if, does it make you think about, you know, am I ready or not?
Sure, yeah. And, you know, there's some spiritual implications there for sure. I mean, you know, just because you're young doesn't mean, you know,
There were young people that were injured.
Oh, you know, the thing that broke my heart the most was, I don't know if we have any here, we may, but there was an 8-year-old boy.
Yeah, we have some 8-year-olds here.
His dad had just run by him. They were about 10 to 20 yards from the finish line. He sees his dad out there. His dad stops to hug him. He jumps out there to hug him. He runs back to his place, and the bombs go off, and he's gone.
One of the ones that died.
Right. So you know, you just never know, and not to be.
And you know, yeah, because most of these kids think
Right.
we don't die.
Right.
Old folks like us die.
Right.
We don't die.
Right. And not to be morbid or anything, but you know, it is. You know, from time to time, you need to take a little inventory and evaluation. Hey, you know, where am I heading? What am I doing here? Am I just going through the motions, or, you know, am I making a difference? And I'm not talking about making a difference. You know, my son just graduated from high school, and I told him in front of seniors one night, I said, you know, I'm not as concerned about what you're going to do in life as a job. I'm more concerned about what you're doing for the kingdom, you know? And so I think that, you know, we're kingdom people. I mean, and, you know, we should be looking at that all the time. Am I doing, you know, am I loving God and I'm loving others? And I think we got it covered when we do that.
Amen. Well, Grant, I want to say I'm thankful that you're okay.
Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate it. I love being around young people because it makes me feel younger. But anyway,
You're making me feel old this way.
if you're ever in Bowling Green and you want to come out to run with us, there's a website, Tracks Running. Patrick, who goes to Alberton, is a great athlete. He's training for a triathlon, which is just unheard of, what you got to go through to complete that. But anyway, I do want to leave you with those two scriptures. If you could tell them again, Philippians 3, 12 through 14, and Hebrews 12, 1 and 2. And then I'd like to pray with you before I step down, if that's okay.
Sure, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay. Philippians 3, verse 12 through 14 says, not as though I'd already attained, neither were already perfect, but I follow after. If that I may apprehend that for which I'm apprehended for of Christ Jesus. Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, or gotten a hold of that. But this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before, I press towards the mark of the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. And then Hebrews 12.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I got it right here.
Yeah, go for it.
Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down. You know, we don't want to run with weights around us. Can you imagine running with ankle weights or some kind of chest weight or something like that? Be pretty bad. So let's get rid of all that, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. Man, you know, that is tremendous. I mean, this race that He set before us, and what Jesus is doing in our lives. And how do we do this? He answers that in verse 2. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting Him, He endured the cross, disregarding the shame. Now He is seated in the place of honor beside God's throne.